Okay, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This week on Simulcast 242, we're talking about big ol' iPads. Amazon is buying Twitch, lots of watches, and T-Mobile continues to shake things up. We'll talk about it all right here on the Simulcast. It is Wednesday, August the 27th. I'm Bill Stebbins, and you are listening to Simulcast 242. And now that I have the Hangout on air going, we're live, Patrick.
Woohoo!
None of that silly old Hangout stuff that we can't broadcast like I tried to do.
What you talking about?
I'm talking about, this is kind of how my week has been going. My month, my year. I seem to say that a lot.
At least you're honest.
That's true. I'm honest and I complain all the time, so sorry about that, folks. All right, let's get right into it. The iPad may be getting bigger, and by bigger we mean 12.9-inch bigger, rumored for 2015. There's a lot of Apple rumors floating around. Is there something big getting ready to happen, Patrick?
Well, that's the rumor. Nothing's been confirmed as far as I know yet. To me, I think the bigger iPad, I guess I could see if it was something, if you use it primarily, like some businesses use it specifically for like display type things, but I mean, until they add more functionality to make it closer to being a full OS, where at that point I could see it being useful, because then things like with Adobe and like with Photoshop and Final Cut and things of those sorts, where I could see like designers wanting something, a bigger tablet, because it's the same reason why you used to see a lot of professionals would buy the 17-inch MacBook Pro, which they killed, was because they needed the extra real estate. I could see if it was like for certain use cases, but
well, is Apple going to eventually come out with a competitor to the Chromebook, or is that too far in the race to the bottom for Apple?
I think it's too far to the race to the bottom. I think what I'd see them doing is developing the iPad, or at least a level of iPad, to match the Surface, to have it be something in between a tablet and basically being a full computer, a Mac. And so I think at some point they have to go there. I mean, I always thought if they did it, the better way to do it would be to have kind of go the detachable method like you have now, where you'd have the keyboard dock and everything, so it would still look like a MacBook Pro, but when you remove it, because I mean, if you think about it, it's about the right dimensions for that 12.9 almost on a 13-inch MacBook Pro. And I mean, if you look at the bezel and everything, it could stand in almost for an iPad. Have something like that where it would detach from the base, and you'd essentially be running something that's somewhere in between iOS and full Mac OS, which is where they seem to be going, merging the two now.
Yeah, I see Chromebooks picking up so much steam that people are starting to figure out, hey, I don't need a full Windows machine to do what I do, because all I do is get on Facebook and Twitter and watch YouTube and Netflix, and I can do all that on a Chromebook for $200, $300.
Yeah.
And we talked about the netbooks a long time ago, and those kind of went by the wayside because tablets have become so ubiquitous. But I think the blending of those is the Chromebook, and we're going to get to the point, I think, where most people, Chromebook is good enough, and Apple's going to have to do something. And I kind of agree with you. I think they're going to try and incorporate a current or a similar thing to the iPad that also would double as a laptop.
I mean, the question becomes: do they try to go from the iPad to the Surface, or do they go from the MacBook Pro and add a touchscreen capabilities to it? Because I don't know. Although I mean, Apple has been known to just make the big leap when it comes to the computer side, so maybe they'll do it that way. I mean, it seems like it's a no-brainer that they could make tons of money with it, especially a lot of professionals that use Macs, to have that functionality would be great. And like in a class, depending on what you're doing, where you can take it off the dock of it, in classrooms where you're starting to see, like in college and stuff, a lot of places are starting to use Macs because they hold up better and whatnot. To be able to do something like that and say, hey, look, and hand the screen around, passing it around and things like that could be really, really useful.
Yep, I agree. So also this week we've seen a bunch of I guess they're not even, are they rumors? I don't know, but the iPhone 6. We know a new iPhone is coming. There
And we
hasn't.
know it's coming in September.
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of speculation like there usually is about the naming. They're just calling it iPhone 6. I wonder if we're actually going to see it in the next couple of weeks. So the rumor is that there's a September 9th event, which probably means next Tuesday invitations will go out.
Thereabouts, yeah. I mean, it seems about right, given the way things have gone the last few years. Have something early-ish September with the release late September, early October.
I'd be okay
The
with
actual device.
Yeah, that would be neat. And they're still talking about two phones, and there's all kinds of stuff floating around. And
I told somebody, asked them if they were taking off September 9th. They go, why? I said, don't you want to be at home when hell freezes over? And Apple finally makes a large screen iPhone. You know that thing they said nobody wanted and it was a bad thing?
oh, you mean when they invent the large phone?
Yeah. We didn't invent it. We made it better.
It's going to be funny, and to see all the hypocrites come out of the woodwork is going to be hilarious.
Although what's interesting is the 3rd is when we're supposed to be hearing about the Note 4, so there'll be lots of phone news that week-ish.
Well, and that would be kind of typical Apple fashion to drop their announcement right in the middle of Samsung's thing. But whatever, that's fine. I mean, I don't really care at this point. I'm not jonesing for the Note 4. We'll talk about the Nexus 6 here in a bit, but September is going to be a good month for a lot of stuff. And if you're a fan of tech like we are, there's going to be so much stuff that you'll actually have to make a decision, I think, this year on where you spend your money. Whereas before, a lot of people would just buy a Nexus or buy an iPhone. Now you're going to have lots of choices.
And we should get a lot of good things out of IFA coming up. So.
Yep. Something cool that was dropped, I think this was last week, and we were off last week because of some things I needed to do, but Google released their Panorama software for iOS. So previously that was specific to the Nexus devices, then they released it on the Play Store. You can actually take 360-degree panoramas and share these through Google Plus and view those on your device. It's a fantastic piece of software, and now you iOS users can enjoy it. Yeah. And then finally, in the It Just Works category, Apple's offering free battery replacement for certain iPhone 5 handsets where they've identified battery issues.
Which seems to be a lot of them lately.
If your battery life sucks on your iPhone 5, we've linked it in the show notes. You can go check and see if yours is one of those affected.
And I would say you may want to bookmark this if you have an iPhone 5 and have had battery issues. Apple in the past has put out like a list, and then it's grown as more people complain that they have the problem and they're not in the initial list. So I would kind of keep going, check back on that, because even though you may not be in that batch now, if there's enough people with the batch you're in start complaining, eventually they'll expand it.
Yep. So there you go. Apple's taking care of its customers. Go see somebody at the Genius Bar, but call ahead, because I know somebody that drove an hour to the Apple Store and they were out of batteries.
Ooh.
So,
I will say though, the Apple Store, as much as I have issues sometimes with Apple, the people who work there are usually really good about customer service.
That's true, and unfortunately, the person I know made an appointment online for this specific instance, and then when they got there, the batteries were sold out. So I don't know what happened, what they did, but yeah, that's kind of sucky. Okay, people. Google stuff. Best Buy last week outed the Moto 360. They had a whole spec page on it. It's got a TI processor, and it gave all the details, Qi charging, waterproof, blah blah blah. $249. Sold. I will take one. Thank you very much.
Called "Shut Up and Take My Money."
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, why not? There's been we've got a bunch of stuff in here. Well, not a bunch, but some stuff about. There's 3 watches that we're talking about this week. LG has one, and something R. It's round.
Yeah.
And they made a big deal about feeling the. It says feel the gap, not fill the gap. So theirs doesn't have the little flat tire at the bottom. I mean, the Moto 360, it doesn't bother me. I understand it's part of the how the display is made.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on the LG watch, the R thing?
I guess I'm still leery always of LG because they still haven't had enough of a history of being good about updates to make up for the years of really bad updates. Because, I mean, for a long time, LG was always known that you get a really, really good hardware and no software support whatsoever. Because you wanted updates, you needed to buy a new phone. And they slowly tried to. I think they've slowly improved upon that, but I still am always leery with LG on things. And I mean, the Moto 360, I guess part of me also looks at LG as like, great, you're doing this because so many people wanted the 360, so you decided to do this. Why didn't you just come out with this thing in the first place? And so, I mean, even Samsung has come out and said, stay tuned, they're coming out with a round watch too. I'm like, really, guys?
Yeah. The LG just looks, I don't know. It looks too much like this is going to sound stupid. It looks too much like a watch. It's like like the 360 looks like a futuristic watch that still looks like a watch. I don't know, that sounds really stupid, but when the 360's turned off, it looks really sleek and sexy, and the LG just kind of looks like you've got a watch with a black face on it because it's still got all the stuff around it.
I mean, I think the thing I always liked about the 360, even if I'm curious to see what it'll look like once the actual model comes out, but all of the pics that they put out and stuff, I was like, man, that looks like a high-level watch, like especially with some of the faces they put on it. I'm like, that looks like something someone with a decent amount of money spent on a watch.
Yeah.
Like one of the faces, I mean, it looked like a tag. So, I mean, it looked like something you'd want to wear around and show off.
Yeah, I mean, for those of us that work in offices and sometimes wear suits and stuff, my Gear Lab, I guess, is nice, and it would go okay with my suit, but it probably wouldn't be as nice as one of my other watches.
So, all I know is the pictures I've seen of the 360 with a metal band, all I can say is sexy.
Yeah. So I'm getting one as soon as it's available. I'm not too high on the LG. It looks kind of small also. They've got like a pretty big bezel around it, or at least from the pictures it looks like it. I guess we'll have to wait and see at IFA. And then Asus has a ZenWatch that they're supposedly going to be showing at IFA as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Asus one I'm curious about because Asus has, as of late, has made some really good stuff at a lot better entry point for prices. I could see it being kind of like your workout watch or something where you wouldn't mind if it got banged around as much, or if there was a potential for banged around. Whereas 360, you're probably gonna not want to wear it in some certain situations because you don't want to get messed up potentially.
That's a good point. Maybe I can pick up one of the LG G watches just to knock around in, because it looks like something you'd wear to cut grass or whatever. I mean, I wear my Gear Live when I'm cutting grass, and it holds up just fine, but that would be interesting.
Right, to soccer practice.
What a dork. Okay, so exciting month coming up for Android Wear. Lots of choices. There'll be more, I'm sure. There was rumors of one of the other watch companies, Swatch or somebody, coming out with something.
And you figure even if they don't actually release it, there'll be lots of them will be making some kind of announcements or teases at IFA as well.
Agreed. We also have Nexus 6 rumors, Motorola Nexus, and the Motorola Nexus is rumored to have a 5.2-inch screen, 13 megapixel camera, blah, 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 running lemon meringue pie.
I just don't like that name.
Well, you know, they were calling Kit Kat key lime pie internally, and then when they released it, it was Kit Kat. So maybe, I hope it's something like Lemon Head or something like that.
Well, I mean, my thing is, even if you don't go like a name brand or something, use something that's simpler.
Yeah.
I mean, how about licorice? I mean, it's one word. Something that, I mean, that's the thing I hate about ice cream sandwich, because it's a mouthful. That's why everybody just starts saying ICS.
LMP.
Then I can see the limp rumors.
Yeah, and as I heard today on one of the podcasts I was listening to, you probably don't want to call your operating system anything to do with lemon.
True.
So, we'll see. Google always, usually they have fun with that kind of stuff, so we'll see. I'm excited, even though I may not buy the next Nexus. It'll have to be pretty darn good. It's going to have a big battery.
I think the only way I'm going to go with the Nexus is if they finally get in there, and there was talks that even though the last one was on everybody except Verizon, that they were in talks with Verizon to have something for the next one. And Motorola and Verizon have a really, really long history of working together. So if Motorola is making it, we might finally see another Nexus on Verizon, especially with the new voice over LTE that's supposed to start rolling out.
That would be very interesting, but given my experience with the Galaxy Nexus on Verizon, I'm not sure that would draw me to use it.
Well, I have to think that part of the discussion would be, if you want this on your thing, you're going to have to leave it alone. And if it's an unlocked device, which most of LTE and with the voice and everything like that, I think that you'll see them being less hands-off. And it fits with Verizon's model now, where they're trying to get more people to encourage them to go to these plans where you basically pay for your own phone, or do what Sprint's kind of doing with their new plan, whereas you have a cheaper plan, and then you either bring your own device or you pay basically the monthly fee over the period of the contract that's separate from the actual phone contract. You're starting to see a lot of these carriers trying to get away from subsidies. Perfect way to do it. Go with a device that it's a lower entry but has everything. Just sell plans for it.
Yeah, the rumored price is $419 with a 32 gig or 64 gig option for the Nexus 6.
And that puts it easily within the range that you'd expect.
Yep.
For off contract.
So for me, the real big concern, the camera, the fact that it's a Nexus device made by Motorola does not bode well for the camera.
I think the big key is going to be the battery, because Motorola usually does a pretty good job with battery, though.
I hope they do. I really do, because that, I put up with the Nexus 5 and really, with the battery life, I really enjoyed the phone a lot. Like, I kept it almost as long as any phone I've had. I think I had it for 10 months, which is a long, long time in the tech world for somebody like us. But, I was all worried about the OnePlus not having Qi charging. I only plug the thing in once a day, so it's a non-issue.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I still have 46%. It's been off the charger for 14 hours.
I find myself, I do like wireless charging for my handset, but the bigger one I like is having the Qi charging for a tablet.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the one you sit down and pick up more often. I mean, I can see the phone more so maybe at night, where you want to be able to grab it if it goes off or something, and be able to sit it back down, or if you pick it up to look real quick in one of those moments where you kind of wake up halfway. and so we don't have to worry about how plugging it back in and everything. Especially like for me with the Note 3, where you have the big plug, so it's even bigger issue of trying to get it to go in.
Exactly. And then finally, there was a leak of the Moto G, which we're expecting to see some stuff from. When is Motorola's event? It's coming up in the next week or so, isn't it?
I think so.
We're going to see hopefully the new OnePlus X. What is it? X Plus One. I can't get all this Plus One stuff.
Too much weird terminology. Too many letters.
Yeah. So Motorola's next, whatever device, coming soon.
Considering the rumor, at one point there was a rumor that Nexus 6 might be called the Nexus X.
Yeah.
They just.
I'm not buying that one. All right, so if you want to see pictures of that, we linked them in the show notes. It's kind of I mean, it's an entry-level device, but it still doesn't look bad for whatever it'll end up costing, less than $150. In gaming news, Google was rumored to be buying Twitch, and apparently they backed out due to antitrust concerns, and so now Amazon is buying them. Yay!
Well, they need to find something to do since their Fire devices are not selling well at all.
Yep. I don't know. I mean, Amazon only sold 35,000 Fire phones, so.
I will say I was actually shocked. I thought that was more than I thought they would have.
Yeah. Ryan Banks on Twitter, he tweeted, that was 34,999 more than I expected. Like, yeah, I can't believe anybody's buying that thing. I don't know what that means for Twitch. I don't watch Twitch a whole lot. I use it sometimes if there's a like a gaming conference thing like Xbox is putting on or something. They have some pretty nice apps on the Xbox One and 360. So if you use it for that, that's great. Xbox has come out with a cheaper 500 gigabyte option for 360 owners. So if you are taking advantage of those games with gold, you can buy another hard drive that's bigger and save more games. Yeehaw. I'm rocking the One. What does the One have in it? 500?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I couldn't remember.
I'm pretty sure it is 5.
I haven't turned mine on in a while.
Yeah, I need to turn mine on. It's been about a week and a half.
I need to play.
Although I do like the idea though that the fact that this 500 gigs can be cheaper than the current 320, and so especially for people who still have like a 360 where you're racking up on those games with gold games and you want more storage.
You know, in that games with gold, there's some pretty decent titles. I just need to find the time to play them.
Yeah, I've downloaded it, but I still haven't played it. What was it? Street Fighter 2 Turbo or Alpha or something was the one a while back.
Cool. I need to do that. All right, and the miscellaneous stuff. T-Mobile's kind of fired back. Sprint came out with a $100 10-line 20 gig plan for families, whatever. But that was only good for like a year, and then they started charging you $15 a line. Well, T-Mobile said, okay, well, here's what we have. We have $45 for a 2 gigabyte simple starter plan, which seems like a fairly good deal. It includes unlimited talk and text and 2 gigs of data. Then they've got another plan where they will double your data on, is it Simple Choice plans? I think
so.
Then if you were on one of those, then you added a tablet for, I think it was $10 more, they would give you double the data. So that's pretty decent. So say you have a 5 gig plan for $50, and you want to add a tablet for 10 more, then they will give you 5 gigs to use on that tablet. So it's not a shared 10, it would be 5 and 5, but still, I mean, that's pretty darn nice. Especially if you'd like to use a tablet on a cellular plan, but you really don't want to spring for the access plus the data, which is what they do on all the other carriers. And then you just put in there, Sprint's offering an unlimited plan for $60 a month. There were some caveats to that one, though.
Yes, you have to bring your own device, or you use the plan. I forgot what they call their plan. I've been so long since I've used Sprint. It's kind of like their easy pay thing, where basically your phone gets billed along with your monthly bill over the plan instead of having to pay it all up front. It's kind of like what T-Mobile had originally. And so, but if you already have a device, then this is a no-brainer because you're saving $20 over what you currently have, and it's unlimited minutes, unlimited text, and unlimited data.
Yeah, but the caveat that jumped out to me is they're in the fine print. It says that they will throttle you over other unlimited users in the event that their network becomes congested.
But I think, of course, with my thing, most of them have kind of gone to that, and most of them, even T-Mobile, if you read the real fine print, where they have, for network management reasons, for issues, they're going to do it to you too. I mean, they may not out front tell you, but they will. And the reality is, with Sprint, you're going so slow, you're not going to use that much data anyway.
Yeah, how will you know if Sprint throttles you?
It doesn't work.
So then Verizon announced they're going to be releasing voice over LTE very soon, which means we'll see devices that can handle that. I don't know if they have any in their current lineup that can be updated, or if you're going to have to buy a new one.
Supposedly there's at least two. I think it was the LG, the G3, and I forgot what the other phone they mentioned was one that for sure has already been confirmed is voice over LTE supported. That doesn't mean there won't be some other ones that with an update couldn't, but those were the two that for sure were supposed to be.
Now, the interesting part for me was where they talked about how they were going to bill this. They're going to bill it as regular minutes.
Yep.
Which is interesting because it's not traditional voice traffic. It's actually voice over IP, but they're still going to count it as minutes. And at some point, they just need to get rid of the voice minute thing. I mean, we've gotten to the point where you have unlimited minutes and data, and text anyway. So I guess at some point maybe they will, and they'll just have data allotments. And
I think once CDMA is gone and everything is LTE, I think you will see that. It'll just be, here's your data plan. Your data plan, kind of like how T-Mobile and them do, where certain data usage doesn't count against your overall data. It'll be voice calls won't, or certain voice calls won't. I mean, they'll find some way to do it that way, because it'll all be data at that point. There will be no traditional voice stuff, which is how we had the text, because the whole idea was with the packets, there was a little space at the end of all those that was unused, which is how they did SMS.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I mean, there's a lot of change going on, and I guess you got to start somewhere.
Yep.
This one was interesting and not all that surprising. If you've been around Kickstarter at all, this won't shock you either, that Coin, which is supposed to replace the kind of one credit card to rule them all, misses a shipping date and then pisses off all the backers by saying that they're only going to allow 10,000 people to get their device now, and by the way, you're going to be a beta tester, and we're still going to charge you.
Of course, then they came back out after they'd already basically pissed off everybody, and they've expanded the beta. It's going to be free. You won't pay any extra for it if you get selected for it. They're going to basically do it starting from the beginning of backers, from when you backed. You have the option to do it. I don't necessarily blame them so much in the sense of why they decided not to do the full rollout. I think it's the way they handled it was stupid, because basically 1 week they're saying, oh, by the way, expect your email next week to start setting where you want your thing shipped to, yada, yada, yada. A week later, yeah, guys, about that, we're going to be doing a beta. And the problem I think a lot of people have is the fact that it now won't, the real one won't come out till 2015, in the spring of 2015. There's this whole problem that come fall of 2015, all cards in the U.S. are supposed to now switch to pin and chip, or chip and pin, which means this probably wouldn't even work at that point anyway.
Well, and the other part is this thing was supposed to be really secure, and it wasn't going to have. It was going to have a feature where if it was left behind, it wouldn't work. It would just be disabled. Well, that's not going to work. So basically, you're going to have a credit card with all of your credit card information on it, and there's no way to remotely disable it if somebody else got it. That would scare the crap out of me.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be one thing if you did it where it was right there where you're swiping it yourself, but yeah. And with the chip and pin, I don't see how they do it, because unless they come up with a chip that can replicate other chips, there's no way.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Which the whole purpose of chip and pin is to keep someone from scamming your card and simulating your card.
Yep. Okay, and then the FCC has a filing that hints at a Chromecast competitor by Microsoft, which I guess could be interesting.
Yeah, the name that it lists is it's going to be Miracast, which should be supported on Android. So anything that kind of pushes Google's game to be a little bit better, it has to be good for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, I think competition's great. It'll have to be really good to throw me off my 5 Chromecasts that I spread around the house. I realize I'm a little odd. I'm not the typical use case. Or maybe I am. I don't know.
Although, if I remember correctly, it wasn't one of the benefits of Miracast that it didn't need a Wi-Fi, that it could actually do peer-to-peer.
I think so, Patrick, but it's been so long since I tried using it, and I'll be honest, it never worked properly for me.
Well, that was part of the problem, was there wasn't enough supported devices out there. And Google started off by doing it, and then they kind of went off on their Chromecast thing about it instead. So, because I think, what was it, ice cream sandwiches when Miracast became baked in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it still never worked worth the darn. ChargeSpot Pocket will bring both Qi and PMA wireless charging support to retail locations. What is that all about?
So I saw a news article about this. It was talking about this device that would allow, basically, it would support wireless charging for both Qi standard and PMA. And so I was like, and it was like, oh, and you can buy this stuff. So I started looking at their website. Well, unfortunately, for now, they're mostly gearing themselves towards retailers, like for them to install, like at coffee shops, hotels, airports, and things of that sort. And one of the things their thing is set up is to be incorporated into furniture or into countertops and things of that sort. So if this thing takes off, which it likely very much will, especially if Apple ends up adding wireless charging at some point, regardless of which of the two standards they go with. What's good about this is you basically have spots like at airports, restaurants, hotels, things like that, where they could build into the nightstand this device, and you just sit your device down on the nightstand and it would charge wirelessly. And it doesn't matter what charging standard your device uses of those two major ones, because there's a third one that almost nobody uses, but the two major ones it supports, so that this would be a no-brainer for a lot of these places where, as a convenience to their customers, like Starbucks, have this built into the counters and your tables. Just sit your device down and it charges.
Awesome.
So, I mean, and I think we talked in the past, I think it was Qualcomm has said they've worked out a chip in phones which would allow the phone to charge on any type base. Well, this is kind of coming from the other aspect of having the charging station supporting either of them. And if this takes off, the obvious next step for this company and other companies like this is to come out with for consumer use, so that you have just base station at home. And since most of these things are probably going to get made in China at some point, you ought to see tons of these things where you can just buy one, sit it on your counter, and boom, you can charge any device you want.
Boom, I need that.
Of course, the question is, will it charge on Palm? I think that was the other standard, was the A4 at WP or something like that.
I don't remember. It's been so long. I was reminiscing about, remember when all devices were said to be trio killers? That was about 7 years ago. And then all of a sudden Trio's dead.
I can still remember when Pocket PCs were the big deal.
Oh, yes.
Windows Pocket Edition, 2003.
Windows Mobile 5 was my first Pocket PC.
I'm trying to think. I think the one I had was running 2003. I had the Pocket PC, the 6600, the one that AudioVox made.
Yep.
And they got rebranded. The one that if your battery and your backup battery died, you lost everything in your device.
I love that. That was such a great feature. All right. Well, we are on Google+. We are at google.com/plus the Simulcast. You can follow us on there. We post the show every single week. You can also follow us on Twitter at the Simulcast, or you can email us podcast@thesimulcast.com, or you can call us at 203-903-CAST. Casting couch this week. Patrick, I have been watching Orange is the New Black.
Woohoo!
Not religiously, but enough to get me through. I am one episode away from finishing the season 2, and I'm doing that tonight, whether I have to stay up all night or not.
Nice.
Yeah, because I was all set to watch it last night. I watched the whatever it was, episode 12 of season 2, and it was like 11:15, and I was like, okay, I got time for one more, and I started it, and then I saw it was an hour and a half, and I'm like, don't think I can make it. I'm going to bed. That's how you know you're old. You can't make it past 11:15 on a Tuesday night.
So for me, I've been watching a lot of NFL preseason, getting ready for college football starts for me this weekend, and then NFL the weekend after, I believe. And I had to watch some football last night. Well, no, not last night. Was it Monday night? I think the Emmys were on. I made the mistake of turning it to it and got to watch the big circle jerk for Breaking Bad, where they basically got all these awards because it's one of those, oh, they finished, so let's give them awards.
You didn't like that?
Because, well, my thing was, no offense to Aaron Paul, but
Bitch.
Peter Dinklage got robbed because his ones. You don't watch Game of Thrones, do you?
No.
Well, there was one scene from this season where Peter Dinklage did the speech. As I told someone, I said that speech was better than anything Aaron Paul has done in 5 years of Breaking Bad. The only reason he got the award was because, it's the end of Breaking Bad, so let's give them awards.
You take that back right now, Patrick Vergadamo.
No. I mean, even if you don't watch it, you have to watch that speech. It's one of those speeches. You have to watch the speech. I mean, it's one of those, like I told someone, I said, no offense to Aaron Paul. I think great actor, does really good on the show and everything. But it was one of those when I watched the episode of Game of Thrones with that speech, it was just one of those ones you just want to stand up, applaud, and go, give them the Emmy now. It was that good of a speech. And he got screwed on that award.
Okay, fine.
And then started picking up several of the books I read have started coming out with new books, because usually the fall is about when new books start coming out. And so I started reading the newest book in the I Am Number 4 series called The Revenge of Seven.
Awesome. So, picks of the week this week. If you aren't, I've picked this one before too, Patrick, so don't complain to me.
If you said Push Bullet, I said they even had another update today that was pretty good.
I wasn't going to mention it because, I mention them every week. But my pick this week is LastPass, which is a password manager. And it is a fantastic password manager that I use religiously. They had it for free for 12 months actually for 18 months if you caught both specials, even for existing users.
And
So,
then it's the last time I checked, I did it I think yesterday, and they've because they had too many people, they basically killed the internet for their website. They've modified it and they've continued it, but with a modification. And now it was only available for new users. So you may want to go check it out, because if it's still there, you get 12 months free.
oh, that's good. Yeah, I signed my wife and my daughter up because I've been preaching to them. I'd pay the $12. I just signed them up so that we could go ahead and get them on there, and I'm going to show them how to use it. It supports shared passwords, so things like the Netflix password
Mm-hmm.
that I can share with my daughter without sending it in clear text over a text message or a Hangout or something like that. I think it'll be great, and I want to really instill that. My wife probably won't be a big user of it, but my daughter, if I can instill in her early, unique passwords that you can't remember that are stored in this app, just remember your main password and you're good. I found it to be invaluable. Once I got through the pain of switching all my passwords and getting it all cataloged, I love it. And they just updated the app for Android the same day. The Chrome beta was broken and it didn't autofill passwords, and they fixed that.
Yeah, I signed up for it I think yesterday, and so I'm going to try to this weekend. It's a long weekend. Kind of start the process of fixing the passwords.
Yep. What's yours this week, Patrick?
Dropbox Pro, because we had actually talked about a while back with the prices with iCloud Drive and Google Drive with their cost being so low. We said we didn't see how Dropbox could continue to basically overcharge people at their price of $9.99 a month for just 100 gigs. Especially since you had $199 for basically 100 gigs with Google Drive. Well, today they announced that Dropbox Pro, it's going to be 1 terabyte for $9.99 a month, or you can get it even cheaper if you just pay once a year. If you pay it's just $99, which actually makes it less than the Google Drive 1 terabyte.
That is nice. And I really like Google Drive for backing up all my photos, and just because of the integration, but I've always said that Dropbox is probably still better in a lot of regards.
Well, they also have announced some new features. You're now going to be able to have limited time sharing, like sharing links. You can actually make them expire and set when they'll expire. Plus, you'll be able to have password secure links where only the person who has the link and the password can access it. And so I think the big thing that a lot of people like with Dropbox is, even though Google Drive is great for like personal backup because it was cheap and it syncs with your Gmail account and everything. If you use any kind of thing for on a professional level, or you're sharing with a lot of other people, Dropbox has always been the better one for that, in the sense that the shareability of it is better, and it does a really good job of syncing everything, because if you set it up on a desktop, you just drop stuff into a folder and it automatically syncs everything on all of the devices. Whereas with Drive, you have to set it depends on how you have it set up and whatnot for it. It's not really geared towards multiple people, like over shared folders. You may have a shared file, but the folders and everything where you can just drop stuff into a folder is a little different.
That'd be nice. Are they going to roll those out to everybody or just pro users?
It's for Dropbox Pro, which is basically anybody who has more than the free Dropbox. That's what they call the Dropbox Pro.
Okay.
And it's apparently it's slow rolling, because a friend of mine got his email earlier today and I still hadn't got it before the show started. But they just announced it today, so it may take a couple of days for it to roll out for everybody. But I'm like, okay, you just convinced me to maybe keep you.
Yeah. I don't remember how much storage. There it is.
I was paying the $9.99. I had 100 gigs, but then I had whatever if you get other people sign up, you get a few gigs. I think I ended up with like 100, almost 109 gigs of storage.
I have 63 and a half. I think 50 of those were from some device that I bought. Whatever, I'm only using 20% of that anyway, so.
I'm using a lot smaller percent now.
Yeah. Most of my stuff is in drive.
Yeah, I'm using 18% of 108 gigs.
Boom. All right, Patrick, tell everybody where they can find you when you are not on the podcast.
You can find me on Twitter with handle LSULaw2009. You can find me on Google Plus. Just search for my name, or you can go to plus.technicallylegal.net, and you can email me at patrick@thesimulcast.com.
All right, and I am Bill Stebbins. I am at Bill Stebbins on Twitter, and this is new, BillStebbins.com for everything else. I've moved my URL to point to my Google Plus, so you don't have to remember all that stuff.
Nice.
That is going to do it for Simulcast 242 for Wednesday, August the 27th. Assume we'll be back next week. Stay tuned. And if you have any interesting news you want us to talk about, be sure to hit us up on our social media contacts. Thanks for listening and watching. Good night.